where am I catching you at right now?
So I'm currently in New York. That's where I was based for the last 16 years. And yeah, I had, I think, 5 days off. I mean, that's like kind of the first time in a while.
Yeah.
So I decided to come back to New York, spend time with my mom, spend time with my sister, with my family before I get back on the road. Because obviously, starting May, like literally next week, it's going to be like an intense marathon for the whole summer. So it's like my schedule is like, I think I have like 15 to 17 shows a month all the way to September. So
yeah, it's busy, man. Is it like this time for you in your life, in your career, would you say this is like the busiest you've been as far as travel and shows go? Like, does it feel like it's just getting crazier?
No, I have to say that last year was really busy, right? The difference in between this year and last year is the conversation regarding more like the quality of the shows that I want to take.
Yeah.
Because last year was just like, yes. You know, we were just like everywhere, you know, everywhere. I mean, if I don't want to say here how many flights I took last year, because I'm sure the social justice folks of the environment are going to come for me. But I can tell you that it's a pretty high number. Yeah. So the difference is that this year there's a better conversation around the quality of the show. There's a better conversation around the routing of the shows, because last year was like, okay, like put me Friday in Berlin and then like Saturday in New York, like I'll do it, you know, like I was just saying yes, you know.
Yeah.
And now like more conversation, like my team, my agency, like everybody's coming together and we're like, guys, we need better planning. We need to have a better routing so like this guy doesn't like burn out or something, you know.
So of course,
like we do Europe for like, you know, like you know, let's make sure that like all the bookings are like concentrating in Europe for this amount of time, and if we go somewhere, like let's make sure that there's a purpose for it, you know. So it's like there's more organization behind it now.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, yeah, it's a thing you definitely got to keep a handle on. And I think it's good to sort of keep that governor on it, to like keep your eyes on it as you get busier and all that, because yeah, that kind of thing can get out of control super fast. And I think it's hard to, when you are getting all these opportunities, of course, you want to say yes to all of them, right? And it becomes a thing. I think that's one of those things you kind of only learn by doing it, is that like, after a while, yeah, you just can't say yes to everybody, even though you really want to.
Unfortunately, like, you know, because obviously, like, if you specifically because I've done, like, I literally just started having a manager like 2 years ago. Okay. So, like, in my career, I've been doing this for the last like 10 years,
yeah.
Right? A lot of people just are not very much aware of it, which is normal, right? People get to know you when you're like, you know, in front of them. But it was like a lot of time, like a lot of work that I've done behind the scene before like getting here. That meant that like I was like on the forefront of every single conversation. So I do know a lot of promoters myself. I do know a lot of like bookers. And the hardest part is like actually having those guys that supported me until then, trying to like get me on again. And then it's like, okay, what's the conversation sounds like in between? Hey, like now we have like this is a different chapter now that I'm trying to, you know, that I'm building toward. So it's like, it's always like a little bit difficult because I tried as much to give back to like the people that like were there for me. But at the same time, it's like, you know, I also need to make sure that like my story is progressive the way it's growing, you know. It's like, if I'm going, you know, like, you know, there are like certain venues that I can't really play anymore in certain markets because then it's not really portraying, like, you know, the work that I'm doing in like the best lights.
Right.
So, you know, I always try to like, you know, get people involved and have certain amount of conversation, but it does get hectic, you know, because it's like, it's a lot of conversation at the same time. And I always try to stay away from it.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that's what managers are for, right? Is to have those conversations and all that. Yeah. So you don't have to, you know, be the bad guy sometimes. But it's interesting, man, hearing you talk about sort of the new chapter of this, like the progression of your career. I mean, how do you, this is a very broad question, but how do you look at sort of what you're doing now? Like, what is this new chapter? Because certainly I've seen your name more in the last year or two than I had previously. So like I can feel that energy, right? That this is sort of a push that you're making. But for you, how do you look at what you're doing now versus what you were doing, say, 5 or 10 years ago? Because, you know, for you, you've been there the whole time, right? So you've been on this journey with yourself. Is there something you're doing now, a way you're approaching it, or something you're working on that you look at that is different from how you approached it back then?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like I can answer this question in many different ways, right? Because again, there's a lot of different parts that come together for me to be able to like operate at this, like within this part of my, like within this stage of my career. Like obviously there's no, I don't necessarily like to like put emphasis on like what's like a major falls versus like minor. So I'm just gonna go in like a random order, right?
Sure, yeah.
First of all, like I give a lot of praise to my team, you know. Like I have one of the best team anybody could ever wish for. And this is probably also maybe the reason why it took me so long to sign with someone, because I was always very particular with what it is that I wanted. Because I've had like people come to me in the past saying, hey, like, let me just work with you. But then obviously like once I realized that like I am better than you are, like what you're about to do for me, it's a for me to be, because it's like that's the other thing. I'm a multitasker at its best, and I can literally kind of like do anything, you know?
Yeah, and I'm sure you were self-managing there for a long time before the team, right?
Booking, like I started my own music label, like Onetribe on my own, obviously with like a couple of friends that helped me out. But it was always like kind of like, what do we want to get? Okay, how do we get it? And let's get it, you know? So it was always like, it was never like, oh shit, I can't do it. No, it was like, okay, well, we have a roadblock here. What do we want at the end? How do we get it? Let's get it. Going back to your question, I would say like, I'm very grateful for my team. Like, listen, I'm working with WME as an agency worldwide. And I mean, they have like some of the top talents in the world, like my agents, respectfully, like both for like Europe and worldwide world, and the ones in Americas and like South America, they are just like on top of the games, you know, like honestly, like I couldn't be more blessed than that, right? But then there's also the work that I've done for myself within the past like 10 years, right? Like before even joining an agency or a management, that allow me to have a very specific understanding and vision of like how I want the dynamic to be within my team versus like what I want to accomplish. And I think this is what really changed a lot for me, because I feel now that like I'm just getting better and better at even understanding more and more this industry and making decisions, right? Which makes everything easier for my whole team, because they're like, oh, like we're really dealing with someone that knows exactly what he wants and how he wants it. So it's not like, oh, what are we doing here? Like, no, it's like before they come to me, hey guys, like I have like 5 tracks ready that I've been working on. It's like, okay, here's where I want the tracks to go. Like, here's the creative direction that I want it for it. Here's how I want it to look like. Okay, guys, I want a logo, new logo. Here's what I want it to look like. Guys, I need a new photo shoot. No, here's a photographer that I want to work with. I like her direction. And it's like, just get it done. It's like, so there's a lot of like understanding that I've put together for the last like 10 years, that I've like a lot of like, trial and errors, experience, lessons that allow me in every sense, right? Even making music itself, the music direction that I want to take, it's like, obviously like I moved to Berlin from New York, I would say like 7 years ago, but I was still doing both, right? But my main goal moving to Berlin was like, get better at my music production, create a structure behind like, how I will be able to handle it when I'm on the road, I kind of like foresee some of those things from far, right?
Right.
And today, like I have a very strong regimen in terms of like, okay, I'm playing shows, but then like in the planes, if it's a play that is more than 5 hours, I need to work at least 2-3 hours of music, you know? And like, even if I need to create a quick idea real quick. So it's like, I'm always working on like ideas, like skeletons, so that whenever I'm ready to go into the studio, I have at least like 10 projects ready to go. And I don't have to be like, okay, what am I doing now? Right. And that kind of like, okay, I'm in the studio for a week. I just crush it, you know? And there's the people like, oh man, how you do that? Like, how you doing to make music? Because I'm like, I don't waste any time. Whenever I'm in the streets and I have an idea, I pull up my phone, voice notes, and I just like start jamming on it. And then like, so when I'm back to the hotel or back in the plane, it's like, so there's like a proper regiment for everything.
Well, let me ask you this, because that all makes sense. Have you always been that way? Have you always been the go-getter? Have you always been the sort of self-starter? Like, where does that come from?
So honestly, I think right now I've never felt like I've ever been at this level. I feel like, because it's funny because, okay, so I believe in astrology, but like I'm not like one of those crazy astrology guys, right? But now I just feel like this Virgo thing is really coming together like at its highest level. Because
wait, you got to explain this to me because I don't know anything about astrology. So what is Virgo for you?
Well, I'm a Virgo, right? I was born on 26th of August. And when you're Virgo, you're like super analytical, like you're like a perfectionist, like literally everybody hates your gut because like you always want it perfect, and like you gotta foresee things like, and it's weirdly like I was always being like a little chaotic, like growing up, but somehow when it came to getting stuff done, like I would always, like everything I've done in my life up until today, from like giving up on my pre-med program, right? And switching to finance, which was like completely, literally like starting back to zero and trying to understand it and just getting it. I'm like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to try to understand and create my own structure in my head to be able to execute against it. So when I started working in a bank with a biology background, like there's one thing that I was good at. I had a personality for it. I was a relationship manager, and I just did. Obviously, I made mistakes. I learned. I was around people that were like well knowledgeable about finance because I mean like they learn from it. But in my belief that like nothing is impossible just brought it together. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So get it done, boom, and then banking, bank manager, blah blah blah. Same thing. Like I've never done this before. I crashed for like 2-3 months, and I realized that like being a banker is different from being a manager because it's two different things. When you're a banker, you're in a sales position. When you're a manager, you're managing people, So it's like, I had to like restructure myself, and I learned from that, right? And then after moving into the music thing, saying, okay, listen, I want to do this music thing full time, and I'm going to quit this banking thing because I'm not really happy with this, right?
Yeah.
So actually, I got fired, but then I was like looking for to be true, I got fired.
Sure.
And I was looking for a job after that, and I couldn't find a job. So I was like, okay, fuck it, let me just like. I had a little bit of savings. I was like,
dude,
let me just.
That's the best. I mean, sometimes I'm only stopping you because I have a similar story. When I started DJing and producing full time, it was because I got fired from my office job. And exactly the same. I looked for another job for a year and I couldn't find one. And I kind of had to make ends meet. So I had to step up the music thing. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but like, it's, the best thing that ever happened to me was getting fired because it was always a passion. But I don't know if I hadn't gotten fired then, I don't know if I would have made the leap on my own,
Brother, I tell you, I would have been probably like an executive at Capital One right now. Like,
yeah,
suits. Hey guys, what's up? No, really, I was actually good at it. Like.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I believe that the reason why I got fired was because, I mean, I belonged to like a different team, and my old boss got promoted, and I got a new boss, and she had her own way of doing things and stuff, whatever. But listen, I'm grateful, and yeah,
well,
so yes,
let me rephrase my question a little bit, because talking about, you were going into a pre-med program and then you stopped, you went into banking, you had to relearn all of this stuff. Then we'll get into the music transition in a minute, but all of that, to me, that seems like a confident person. That seems like there's a confidence to saying, I don't know how to do this, and I'm leaving a secure thing for an insecure thing that, has a lot more maybe pitfalls. But where does that confidence come from? Like, is that the way you've always been? Like, where does this come from? Like, how did this person emerge?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think we're probably going to have to also interview some of my old friends to see really the truth. But I think it came from my mom and my dad, actually, because I was born and raised in Benin, West Africa. I'm lucky enough that my parents were like both educated, because it's like poverty. I mean, there are people that are like comfortable there, but it's like most of the people are not comfortable. So like my parents were like educated, and they gave us, they made sure that like, we were educated, that we had like all the basic stuff,
Yeah.
But they also made sure that like we appreciated, we knew exactly what we had. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I think this is like the balance between my dad's like being like extra strict African dad, like, bro, I was so scared of my dad growing up. Like, you have no idea. Like really, like, I did not have a drink until I was 24.
Oh, wow.
Like
yeah.
That's how much
it was that serious. Yeah.
So, and then like my mom and I were like really close right now. Like, I mean, you can hear from like, I just, I took one of her voices and I put it in one of my latest track, Kalita. We have a very dope relationship, and growing up, she was kind of like always balancing the intensity of my dad, right? But by like coming to us and like, just letting us into her world. Like, she used to listen to music. She used to like, like she was very playful, and she really loved like dressing up, fashion. Like she kind of like nice things, right?
Yeah.
So every time, like, she will always allow us to like, okay, I know that like, your dad is very strict, but like, I'm gonna get you this, like whatever, like of like, okay, what do you want? Like, I'm going to New York, like, what do you want? Like just give me a screenshot and whatever. So it was always like, okay, be grateful for what you have. And my dad always expected me to get the best. Like, I was always top 5 of the class, so I could not go lower than that.
Yeah.
And I had to deliver the result no matter what. And my mom was always like, yeah, but you can have fun. You can like, you can dress up a little bit. You can like nice things too. But then my dad's like, no, this is how much money you get. You get lower than everybody else in your class. There you go,
Well, I mean, this is sounding good, man, because it sounds like you had a pretty ideal, like you got out of it with the ideal situation of sort of taking the good parts of each of them, Because I think sometimes for certain people, it can go the other way, right? Where there's like good and bad, and people leave with more of the bad.
Exactly. Because I've had friends that like came up from really good family and that like just stop talking about any type of motivation. Like they don't want to, they never really wanted to like want more, because they were always very comfortable,
Yeah.
And I have friends, and vice versa. I have friends that come from good background, and then they could, they had all the confidence in the world and all the motivation. And then I've had people that come from like not so fortunate background, and that gave them the motivation. Like, yo, I need to get it. I want to take care of my family. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I guess at the end, like, you are in an environment, but then at the end, your character also needs to define a little bit of like,
right,
which way, So I guess it's just a mix of like my dad, my mom, and my siblings, and how I grew up. Yeah, I think so. I truly think, yeah.
Well, let me ask. Let's talk about music for a second, like coming up too, because I'm very curious. You mentioned your mom was playing music around the house, that kind of thing, and I'm fairly ignorant about like like the culture of Benin, especially back then. So just in general for you, like what kind of music, say, you know, if you flip on the radio or say you go to a house party, like what are you hearing as a kid, maybe as a teenager?
As a teenager, I mean, so there was a lot of like local music, right? And African music is very mixed, right? You have like West African music, you have South African music, you have East African music. And back then it was like Congolese music, music from Ivory Coast, Coupe de Calais, Afrobeat, but more like at its earlier stages. Right. And then, you know, like on the youth part, like we would like listen to like, you know, French rap, hip hop. And like, you know, we were looking at all these video clips and like, oh, I want to dress like this, I want to dress like that, you know? And I mean, that's also the reason why I also got into a rap band when I was in high school.
And that band was actually kind of successful, right? Like regionally?
Yeah, no, we did well, man. We did like national competitions. We finished number 3 on one. Like we were like playing a bunch of different shows in like different schools because like, you know, the schools were doing like end of year events and like other stuff. So yeah, so we kind of like had something going on for ourselves. Yeah, but when it comes to music, yeah, it's like African music, West African, Congolese, and quite interesting. I just want to drop like a quick knowledge there.
Please.
When I look back at like the youth when I was growing up and the youth now, I think there's a more condensed sense of identity into the music and into the path that they're taking. You know, like we were listening to like hip hop, we were like trying to dress up, like, you know, cooler than like, okay, what was going on there? And our parents were listening to like African music. Some people were listening to African music. Today, the whole youth, everybody's listening to African music. Everybody's dressing up with African clothes. It's like there's a bigger identity that is being recognized, you know. And listen, I'm happy, you know. I'm happy because when looking back at it, obviously, I wish I was a little bit more like embracing, you know, like music for my culture growing up. But I also guess that this is also the reason why, like, I'm also a bit more diverse musically because I opened myself quite early. I had to listen to African music no matter what, anyway. But I was opening up myself to like hip hop, French hip hop, like salsa because my mom used to like salsa. My mom used to like French, like, you know, old French classical, you know, Mylène Farmer, like other stuff. And like we listened to that. So it's like there was a lot of different type of music going through the house, you know?
Why do you think that is, that there's maybe a stronger sense of identity or pride or just, you know, that more cohesive thing for the kids now?
I think first of all, I think social media has a lot to do with it, you know, because, as you see it right now, like if you go to TikTok now, like some of the most famous TikTok videos are connected to like African music. Afrobeat is literally leading all the TikTok numbers right now, like Burna Boy, Whiskey, Davido, and all those guys. And as the music is getting more prominent, I think the youth, they're like, yeah, this is for us, you know, like they're like, there is a sense of like, yo, it's us now. Like, why do we have to listen to other people's music, you know?
Right.
And I think there's a lot more information going around nowadays, because there's like an African diaspora in most European countries, in most American countries, you know? And I think with social media nowadays, there's a lot more conversation happening versus back in the days where like information was kind of a little secluded.
Yeah.
It wasn't just going around as much as now. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And it's interesting that it takes something like social media just generally being more interconnected to kind of show people what was always true. You know what I mean? Ostensibly, we're here to talk about dance music, like, which is completely originated from Black people. And you're right. It's one of those things that until it's shown in a certain light or until enough people see it, it's easy to tell a different story or to interpret it a different way. And so for you, what about dance music? How did you first hear dance music, electronic music?
So I could hear like growing up, like there was we had like MCM, which is like a French European channel that would play like different type of pop and hip hop and everything, from around. But then we could hear like I could hear like the first thing I noticed when I first heard dance music was like the difference in BPM. I knew that it was like a faster BPM, and like Afrobeat, anything that is African is a lot more slower,
Yeah.
It's like, so it was always like, okay, this is the music over there, and this is the music that we're listening to here, Even hip hop was like a slower BPM, so we were like, okay, that belongs to us. So one of my brothers graduated from high school and went to Lyon in France for university. He comes back a year after in summer, and like his whole style of clothes has changed. Now he's wearing like skinny tight clothes, skinny jeans, skinny t-shirts.
Right.
He has a mohawk. And then he's like, yo, man, like I just discovered this new style. It's called tectonic. And that's when like tectonic was like famous in France.
Wow. I haven't heard anyone talk about tectonic in a while, man.
Oh, that was like around that like Justice era, like Roger Sanchez, like Martin Solveig at its beginning, Fuck Me I'm Famous from David Guetta, all the stuff like David Vendetta mixes and stuff, And that's during that era. And because I come from a very traditional household, the older brother has control of the music everywhere. Okay. It doesn't matter, like in the car, in the house, like he decides what happens, So he literally put me in like a freaking hole for the whole summer. Like literally, like I had to listen to the music that he brought home, like every single day, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Like it was just it. And tectonic was also like booming on TV, whatever. Benin is kind of like influenced a lot by French media, So it was kind of like, and he was kind of the guy that came from France and showing us how to do it. So by the time he left after the summer, he was like, okay, listen, I'm going to give you my CDs. And I'm like, yo, bro, just take away your CDs. Like, thank you. Like you crushed me this summer. With
I've
this
had
thing.
enough. Yeah.
And he was like, no, come on, shut up. Just take it, man. Like, you don't like it. And somehow, bro, like it was such an important summer for me because also like we were going through some family stuff as well. And like, we all got together, and somehow I kept listening to the music until I like for years, and then like I moved to New York, So he kind of planted like the seed of like this thing in me,
yeah.
And then when I moved to New York, I was like, okay, like I want to do more of it because we were already talking about it because we were in the rap band together. We were always doing like we were doing radio mixtapes together, like So yeah, he's kind of like one of the instigators.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of beautiful, man, because there's something about I talk on this podcast a lot about how music can be connected to memories and how it can help us sort of process hard times and how it can also sort of take us back to those times too, right? Like there's something beautiful about you without even trying to, maybe without even liking the music that much at the time. It's like the music somehow got connected to what was going on in your life. And because of that, it's like you could understand the music in a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro. I tell you, like, man, you couldn't say it better. You couldn't say it better. Like, and this is also, I told you, like, when he left, it just became part of like my routine, there was something that I was like, at first I listened to it, I was like, wow, I love it or something.
Right.
And when I moved to New York, like, and I remember one specific night when it was snowing and I was in my aunt's apartment and I was listening to just like one of the tracks that he gave me. And I was kind of reflecting on like our family situation, and it got really emotional,
Yeah.
And the way you said it, I was like, yeah, it's but emotional, even though it comes from a place of like a little pain. Sometimes it's like it's a place that I know, it's a place that I knew. I was in New York, I was still figuring that stuff out. Like, I just lost my dad back then, and it was this whole thing, and the music was literally like what I was able to find myself into,
Yeah. Yeah, it can sort of short circuit your brain. It's a funny thing. I mean, for me, and I feel like this is a problem a lot of men have in general, but for me, sometimes it's like I'll have trouble sort of directly accessing an emotion. Even though I'm feeling it, it's like it's hard to like sort of be present and to like feel it right then, that kind of thing. And I think music is one of those things that can kind of just short circuit your brain and take you straight into that emotion. Like you said, it's like you can kind of identify with yourself more. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Well, the move to New York is interesting too. So did you go there specifically? Was that to like go into a pre-med program?
Yeah, no, because obviously, like I could write English, but I could not speak English properly. So I went here. I had to like study for my TOEFL and get like it. So for those who don't know what a TOEFL is, it's a degree that allows you to take courses in English at the university here, especially if you come from like a country where English is not the first language.
Right.
And yeah, after that, I got into the pre-med program, biology, chemistry, math. And, I was just partying a lot at some point. And I look back at myself and I'm like, man. And I remember like I had like 2 or 3 doctor friends because my school had a program where like alumni that were focused on like very specific categories would come and coach us and stuff,
Sure.
And I made friends with a couple of guys there. And then I remember one day I asked one of the doctors, I'm like, dude, come on, like be really honest with me, man. Like, how is this thing, man? You think it's really dope? And he's like, yo, listen, you're gonna make good money, bro. But your wife and your kids are gonna be the one enjoying it. And I was like, what? I was still in my head. And I think after that, I was just like, man, this is just not. I need something a little bit more, like where I'm dealing with people, when I'm helping people with, And I thought about finances automatically because my dad was a banker, and that's how like I made the switch,
And were you, when you're in New York in this time, were you doing any kind of music stuff on the side?
When I was in New York at this time, I was like always looking for new music.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. I was always, because I told you I was doing like mixtapes, like cassettes when I was in high school with my brothers, and we were like just selling it and giving it to people, like me and him were competing in terms of like who would make like the better mixing of the cassettes with the best arrangements and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was always looking for like the new tracks, like, the bootleg edits of this, that, always looking for it, And then at some point, I was like, okay, I want to DJ. And I started going to Guitar Center because I was like, I didn't have enough money to buy the CDJs. And I was just going to all these parties and like, it was like, man, I was like, I could do this, man. I could do this better than these guys,
Yeah.
And started going to Guitar Center, started to figure it out. But then again, my natural instinct of like figuring out stuff just kicked in. Like, okay, what is it that you're doing? One song after the other. Yeah. But then you're going to need like stuff that are going to enhance it. But then let's try to figure out how you go from one song to the other, Right. And then, just on and on and on and on. Actually, I did not get the CDJs. I got the tractor controller. That was like my first.
I remember those. Yeah.
My first stuff. And then, just playing my friends a pop band party here, there. And then after years, I just realized that like, if I wanted to move up, I needed to know how to use the CDJs. So I started to stop bringing the controllers to the club, and I'll come 2 hours before and try to like learn on the spot how to use the CDJs. I tell you something, I probably had like 5 gigs where the guy looked at me, he's like, I'm going to fire your ass. Like, you suck. Because I could do like, beat match and stuff. But then I think that was like the best thing that happened to me. And I just got better and better at using the CDJs.
That's really all it takes is like 1 or 2 really bad gigs where that you could have done better. I had a few of those too. And there's no better motivator, It's like that, at least for me, that's like energy for 100 more gigs,
Oh, And I think it's funny because like, so my manager always makes fun of me because he's like, man, you're so petty. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really petty because sometimes like it takes me to like I'm a highly competitive person, you know, like, and honestly, I know myself, like that's what really keeps me going. Like, you know, if I feel like, okay, I could have done better, I think for me, that's like the worst feeling I could ever have. Like, that's why I always try everything, right? And everybody's like, yo, are you sure? We don't want you to be disappointed. And I'm like, guys, the worst thing that can happen to me is knowing that I could have tried and I did not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That I could have, you know? So if I fail, then I know at least, okay, I tried and I feel good about it, you know? So.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Well, just out of curiosity, when you were in New York and you were partying and you were starting to get into DJing, what was going on in the New York scene at the time? Like, what was really popping? What did you find really exciting?
I remember like Pink Elephants, which is like the first club that I've been to. Man, and this is also the reason why I'm like, yo, man, until today, man, I think this is also fate, right? Like, I come to New York, I'm 18, like I'm always like wearing like this nice cute shirt to class, to my English class. And then like there was this one girl, right, that was like in my class. And honestly, back then in those English school, you don't really see like people that dress up super nice to come to club, you know, to the class. Right. So you could see that she was like from a different place than this school, you know, because we were all a bunch of immigrants and stuff like this, and just like, you know, trying to just get ourselves in the system. And somehow me and her, like we had to like we became good friends because we were like we were working together on a project or something. And then like somehow we became really good friends. And then she's like, hey, like, you know, you should come to this club where I play at. And I'm like, what do you mean play at? And she's like, yeah, I'm a DJ. And I'm like, wow, you're a DJ, whatever, blah, blah. And then she's like, yeah, it's actually one of the best clubs, Pink Elephant. So I was like, whoa, okay. Like, I never heard of that, but I guess it's cool. So she invited me for the first time. And that was like my first time into like a proper club here in New York, right?
Right.
And I was like, yo, the energy, like, yo. And every Thursday, right? So she introduced me to this promoter that also like I became friends with. And that kind of really like enhanced everything for me. That really opened up a lot of doors for me to really get into the nightlife scene, like Pink Elephants, Greenhouse, Lusuk. You know, obviously like Pasha was open, Hudson Terrace, you know, Tiki Disco, like, okay, talking a little bit more underground and stuff. So, but Pink Elephant was definitely one of the ones that really like hit me because I've never seen such an energy. Like, also, like, I like the vibe in the club. Like, nobody ever got into fights, you know?
Yeah.
It was always like just people just having a good time, you know?
And what kind of music was circulating at that time?
Like progressive house, bro. Like, it's like, and honestly, like, even today, like, when I listen to like Avicii and like all those guys from like Laid Back Luke and all those guys from back in the days, it has nothing to do with the EDM that is going on right now, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, was that like back then it was not EDM, or was that like today is just like a different version of what EDM used to be? Because I honestly I listened to a couple of songs from Axwell from the past that I like. By the way, that I play to close my tracks and my sets nowadays, you know. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, it's percussive, it's groovy, it's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I'm like, yo, these guys were ahead of the times, you know?
Well, I mean, so, the phrase EDM was basically invented to talk about what they were doing, you know? Like when they started, I don't think that phrase existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, man. And then I was very much into also like that kind of, I was like, I started with that kind of music, you know? The Afro thing came after, you know? So I started with like, you know, progressive and what people used to call EDM back then. Obviously, I was still listening to African music. I was still into this whole thing, right? But like, I did not see the vision of putting those two things together, you know?
Yeah.
And again, my brother, one day, he sent me a video of Black Coffee. He's like, yo, check this guy, bro. Like, he's the new guy. And I was like, okay. You know? And it just kept coming to me all the time. It was just like, friends here, like even like I would just be more drawn to like percussive vibes and stuff, and Merc Records, stuff like that, like Louis Vega, all the stuff. And at some point I was like, okay, I think this is what's really coming to me. This is speaking to me. I don't have to run after this. It's speaking to me,
Yeah.
And that's when I really made the switch and really went more for like percussive, Afro inspired music. But again, if you listen to my sound today, you could see the beautiful like spectrum of colors and of music, Like I would take something that has nothing to do with the Afro world and kind of like bring it into my space and make something out of it. That's what I want my interpretation of music to be, And I guess this is also the reason why I'm able to play on like so many different type of stages, right? Like you hear me play with Paradise and Jamie Jones in the tech house world, but there's still sticking to my identity, like, like all the percussions and stuff like this, but a lot more energetic and stuff. And then you see me play with guys like Bedouin, which would be a little bit more like down-tempo, groovy, but still percussive and while keeping my identity alive. And yeah, so it's kind of like I'm also grateful that I went so much as well.
No, of course, man. I mean, it's awesome. It makes me want to ask you, how did you sort of start getting more into that world from, you're DJing locally, New York, doing, kind of whatever gigs you can get at the time. How does it go from there, like, to getting into the bigger scene? Obviously, you mentioned you moved to Berlin, you worked on producing music, all that sort of thing. Was there one person or a moment where you felt like you were kind of starting to break through to the next level, or was it more of a gradual thing?
No, so I can tell you, right? Like in New York, I had a really hard time at the beginning to find gigs, because people were kind of your music. Somehow, at some point, like the Afro thing was not the cool thing to do, like people wouldn't like, they're like, guys, too vibey, like whatever, and I wouldn't get any gigs and stuff. And I remember I have been to House of Yes many times, right? And I was like, man, and I it's weird because House of Yes had this vibe where like most of the big DJs come and play there, but then they will have that sense of community that I felt like it was like it wasn't like, oh, I was going to pink out a friend. I'm like, yo, like who do I even talk to here? Machine, you know what I'm saying? Like House of Yes was like, and I was like, somehow, like I had the guts and the courage to be like, you know what? I don't know anybody there, but I'm just gonna go and walk in there and speak to someone. So I walk in there one day. There's one guy sitting there. I'm like, hey, dude, man, like my name is AMÉMÉ. Like I think you should book me. Like I'm, here's my link. He's like, yeah, I'll check it out. Reach out to you. 1 week after, nothing. So I go back again on a Wednesday at the same time. He was sitting there. Happens to be the owner. He put me on for a show because I was so persistent after like weeks. He put me on for a show. I remember, I'm not going to call the name of the DJ that was playing, but he's a pretty prominent DJ. And I was playing in a smaller room. Long story short, I was supposed to finish playing way earlier. They kept asking me to play longer. Usually the small room closed before the big room. They had to, everybody from the big room came to the small room. They had to close the big room before, and I ended up closing the night. And then it's funny enough, like this guy, like this gentleman at the House of Yes, he sends a message to the booker and he forgets that I was on, right?
Right.
And he's like, wow, this kid is really talented. Book him more. And on top of that, he's really cheap.
That's great.
I don't think I ever told you today that I saw that email, but it was just funny,
That's so good, man. And just real quick for people who might not know, House of Yes, legendary event series in New York. How would you describe House of Yes?
Man, I would say House of Yes community, like acceptance and tolerance, like safe place for everybody, right?
Yeah.
They really wanted to give a chance to everybody to like feel home, and obviously like very theatrical, a lot of like very experimental, visual, like performers, acrobats.
Yeah, super theatrical almost.
Yeah, So Yeah, man. Like honestly, one of the best clubs in New York that I've ever been to. Like, man, when I started playing there, and they were like, they kept booking me and booking me, and I was like, damn, man. Okay, that's when I felt okay. That's a nice little step there. Like okay, I'm in a game. And then when people started seeing that I was playing at House of Yes, then I started getting like offers from some of the, fairly recognized venues in the city, because they're like, okay, he's playing at House of Yes now,
Yeah.
But like they were the one that kind of like gave me like one of the first shots,
And were you producing at that time, or did that come a little later?
Oh, it came way later.
Okay.
And I launched Onetribe because of House of Yes. They helped me launch Onetribe because I was like, yo, now I need to have my own thing and the only place to do it properly is House of Yes. And
well, and so let's talk about Onetribe for a second, because it's not only your label, but it's kind of the umbrella you're doing everything under at this point, right?
Sure, man. It started as a party brand, as a party platform and a fashion kind of like, we were using fashion to tell stories, and yeah, again, just as I told you, like being able not to have shows in your own city really allowed me, like gave me a perspective that I needed to start my own table early enough, and try to also support other people that might be in the same seat as me. So it was through House of Yes. We crushed a lot of the events. I was able to even like book other DJs from like across the world that I was really looking forward to meet. So there was that opportunity there. And yeah, obviously like when it was time for me to start releasing music after I moved to Berlin and I was sending all my music to all those labels, same thing. Oh, no, not good enough. And then I was like, okay, fuck it. Let me just do Onetribe, like music records, right?
Right.
And yeah, first track, I'm in West Africa, and one of my friends is in Tulum. He calls me. That was right before the pandemic. He's like, yo, Black Coffee's playing your track, man. Like, I'm like, huh? Like, how the hell did he get my track? And he took a video. He sent it to me. And yeah, like a week after, that thing was like top 10 of Afro-House, Beatball, Traxxers. And yeah, like that was also another nice, but it was like first track on my own label that nobody wanted to sign. And then people were like, oh, then after like I start getting like messages from record labels, hey, how come you never sent me this track? And I'm like, yeah, of course I sent it to you. It's the number 3 one on the list.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the funniest thing, man. It's just like a general life rule that, no one's going to believe your idea until they see it, but then there's no way to make them see it until you have enough people believing in you to like put it up somewhere. It's one of those catch-22 things. And yeah, I think doing it on your own, usually that's kind of the best way at the start. What are you working on with the label, with the brand in general? Like, are you still expanding it? Have you? Yeah. What are you thinking now?
So we were doing like bi-monthly parties, and then the label came in after the first release. Corona came, but we still kept it consistent. I released Patchino during Corona. I released No Justice, No Peace during Corona. And then like a couple of other tracks. And then we did a couple of parties, like coming back out of Corona. But then I realized that like I wanted Onetribe to be recognized first for its music before anything. The reason why I say this is because I think music is, if I like when I would take the music part, when I would take the events and I would take the fashion, music was kind of like at the essence of everything I was doing. And I felt like that was, if I could reach my public through the music first, then nobody could take anything away from us, Like, we don't have to like, we could even like be in a garage and be like, hey guys, come and listen to Onetribe music, and people are going to show up, But if you're known for the event and the events are not like really dope, then forget about it, So I was like, okay, let's stick to the music. And man, like ever since like we had Power, we had Caleta, we had Baron and Darmon, Elora, and all the tracks, every single releases that we've had were all on top, like all past top 10 of Afro-House. Elora was number 1 of Afro-House for like a good 3 weeks at a time. Power went all the way to like number 2 or something. Caleta went to like number 5. And then, yeah, we have like a couple of other releases coming. So it's like consistently, like things are like being, like the delivery has been amazing. I have a new label manager and stuff. So now we establishing this, and now we're working on like now the events and visual identity, what it's going to look like, how we're going to grow, stage visuals, Onetribe festival potential. And then also now like the merch, how do we bring back the merch, and how do we bring back like all those tickets into it to like get back to the real thing, you know? So yeah, very exciting times, man.
Yeah,
very exciting.
Absolutely, man. I mean, what you know, in a day for you, I mean, say you're not on tour. Obviously touring takes up a lot of time, but if you're off tour, what are you spending your days on? Like is it a lot of production? Is it a lot of planning? Like what's your main focus if you have one?
Number 1, I need to make my laundry. You know?
Yeah.
So laundry, I like to go like to the grocery store. Like I like to go to like the pharmacy and pick like all the stuff that I need, you know, because, you know, man, sometimes I'm on it. Like, it's like, I can get the most basic stuff, you know, because I'm like, I play one show, sleep, next day, gotta go to the airport. But by the time I land, it's already late night. Oh, goes out is dinner. But okay, this phone call here, there. And like next thing you know, like I spent 5 hours on a call. And then like I have to like, so it's like sometimes it's like 2 weeks and I can't do, I'm like stuck in like
well, dude, this is just good planning. This is what you were talking about earlier too, when you go into the studio and you've already got some ideas ready to work on, right? This is just sort of like very practical advice that I hope people hear, is that, yeah, if you think a little bit into the future of just how to make yourself comfortable in whatever situation you know you have coming up, man, it pays off. It sounds so simple, but it really does pay off huge.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You have no idea. Because, but also like, there's one other thing that I've realized early that I think I'm grateful that my team suggested this to me and I did it, because 2 years ago when we started working with them and I wasn't as busy as now, they told me that, hey, listen, there's a couple of things you need. You're going to need a logistical company that is going to book all your flights, it's going to do all your advancing, and it's going to cost money. And we know you're not making that kind of money yet, but it's on you. And you know what I did? I still signed up with them. There was a good amount of time where I had marketing, logistics, and like agency management, like, and then it was, I mean, it's you know, it adds up.
Yeah.
But I was like, listen, this is how I'm running my business now as I want it to be in the next 2 years.
That's smart, man. That's something I think you hear from a lot of successful people is, you kind of it's that like act as if mentality, you know? And
you know what I mean?
let me ask you this, because I agree with what you're saying, but I think in the moment that can also be stressful when you've got a lot of money going out the door and you haven't made it back yet, that kind of thing. How are you with dealing with stress, with pressure? Is there anything you've learned, anything you do for yourself to sort of keep yourself happy and healthy and in a good mind state with all of that?
Yeah, I'm not, honestly, like, I'm very weird, man. Like, I have a way just to go through things. Like maybe at some point I probably have to talk to a therapist or something, right, to figure out where I store all the stuff, you know. But it's like definitely working out is a good thing, but I'm not even working out close to like what I should be doing right now. Like I'm getting like a trainer here, there, like whatever, trying to compensate things, right? But every time I've worked out, like it felt great. The one thing I can tell you that it's like every time I come back home and I see my family, like it's just like an amazing moment. I feel like I'm like just taking so much chip off my shoulders. You know, it's like they're like my brother, my sister, like they don't care. They just, they like smack my hand, like, it's like like nothing, like, you see what I'm saying? It's just one of those places where like I'm just like me, you know, like nobody cares about like, oh, how much dope the track is, and like they still make like funny jokes when we were kids. Like my sister would like spike my, like, you know, my mom would give us a lot of love, and it's just like, honestly, like I think for me, I'm grateful that I can come back and stay and be so close to like these people here. Yeah. But definitely, like, I want to start working out a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we could always be improved for sure. Do you think it's partially, I mean, you mentioned like when you were a kid, you said it was like you were kind of a chaotic kid. Is there a part of you that likes that chaos a little bit? Like, is that exciting to a certain extent?
Like, I have a term for it. I call it like beautiful chaos.
Yeah.
You know, because, and I tell you something, even like when I play, right? Like when I DJ, funny enough, like I've been to places now, right? Because I had to slow down a little bit on a couple of things, on like, you know, because like I would really like become this guy, you know, like I'll become this guy playing the show, but like I would connect with the crowd, I would drink, I would party, like I would dance, I would play with my heart, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it was like, I had to like slow down a little bit, because obviously like with every stages of your life that you get into, you need to, there are a couple of other priorities that you need to make sure that like, you know, I've been taken care of. Yeah, man, it was just on.
Yeah. Well, and you have to engage with it a little bit, right? Because that's, you want to be in the moment and you want to be connecting with people, and that's how you make a good performance and all that. So it's one of those weird balancing acts where you have to kind of be in both worlds.
Yeah, but I mean, to be honest with you, the reality is that, I mean, at the core of it, if I had to, like, I tell you something, like, and the reality of it is that, like, to get to the core of this, at least for me, that chaos is really something what gets me out, you know? Like, you know, and like, my manager's like, yo, man, you never get ready for, you never have a playlist ready. I'm like, yeah, because like I want to go there and feel the chaos and just get on it, you know. And he's like, come on, like try a little bit. I'm like, no. Then I like, I'll lie to him. I'm like, yeah, don't worry, I have a playlist ready for
tonight. No, that's good, man. I think that's fun. It keeps it interesting.
Yeah, but you see, it's like, you know, I mean, it's a business, and now we live in a very specific world, and awareness is key as well. So like the balance in between the chaos and like the structure is definitely what decides of the longevity of the thing, you know?
It's all balance, man. All of this is, I mean, all of life is balance in a way, but it makes me want to ask you too, as long as we're talking about this idea of balance between the fun and the serious, between the party and the work. You know, you mentioned your track, No Justice, No Peace, that you put out during the pandemic. And earlier on, right when we started talking, you made the joke about like you took so many flights, like social justice people will be angry, that kind of thing. And there's this interesting balance between what we do, right? So a track like No Justice, No Peace, there's a strong message behind that, right? And that's based in real, very serious issues. But at the same time, it's a dance track, right? Yeah. And so I'm always interested in this idea of like partying with a message, and how is that accomplished? We were talking about like House of Yes, I think is another good example of that, where they've created this community, this space. But I wanted to ask you, like, how do you think about what you do in that lens? Like a track with a message, how do you make it so the message gets across without losing the party, and vice versa? You know what I mean?
So I think there's two things, right? First of all, like, let me give you a little context about No Justice, No Peace. No Justice, No Peace came out during the pandemic, when the whole George Floyd thing went viral. And I've never been to a protest before, you know?
Right. But a lot of people hadn't, yeah.
But like that time made me question a lot of things. Because again, you have to realize, like, in this scene for a long time, I used to be one of the only few like black people, you know? Yeah. Like in New York, I didn't have a lot, like all my coworkers, most of the DJs were like whites, you know, like most of the promoters were white. And I only knew a couple of like Black people in the industry, you know? So I started calling them and asking them, hey, like how do you feel about being Black in America, you know, in your own shoes? Because obviously like I'm African and I came here, so I kind of have like two different understanding of what that is. And then I started going to the protest, right? Because I had to re-educate myself on like a lot of the things that were going on in America while being Black, you know, that I necessarily did not perceive like coming from West Africa or something, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was like there was a time where I was really like into this thing, you know, and I'm still into it, right? But then it's obviously like I had a lot of time on my hand, and like I would go and educate myself and see how I can support like the message there. But again, what do you do when someone that has like the ears for music that goes into a place and I hear a chant and I'm like, automatically I put out my phone and I just record it, and then I'm home and 10 minutes, like I already have a beat together, you know, like,
yep.
Okay, then we have something here. And then I call like one of my partners back then, and he was like, okay, let's make the track and let's try to raise some money and give it to give it to one of the organizations that support the whole movement. And this is what we did. So when we released No Justice, No Peace, like we created like a small little campaign, and you know, like we raised some funds that we donated to one of the organizations that was supporting the movement. Like I played this track in a lot of places, and people were like it was. I got some good comment for it. Meanwhile, let's talk about how that fits into like, okay, the serious part versus like the fun part, the dancing part. I think nowadays there's a lot of, especially in America, I just feel like, and even around the world, people don't speak to each other, right? People have so much divergent opinion that like they can't sit down and talk, right? Everybody's like yelling from like one of the side of the spectrum, and nobody is like listening to each other. And what I love about music is that music feeds you ideas without you knowing that it's actually going through. You know what I'm saying? Music is like TV. As I tell people, the same way you're watching garbage on TV, like when you listen to garbage music, trust me, like this is us going into your soul, you know?
Yeah.
So like, it's the same thing. So like, it doesn't matter if like someone dances to it and takes it as fun. At the end of the day, like there's going to be there's going to be some seeds that are going to be planted there. And like, that's already what we want, you know? So, and by the way, same thing, like it might not be as serious messages or maybe like not in English, but it's like Pachido, like, you know, Pachido was like a song around about like recycling and like and being mindful of like how using the resources, like, you know, how to fix relationships. There was so many different like meaning that could be added to it that like during the release, I made sure that word communicated to our audience. Caleta obviously like comes from like a very cultural place. Power, the whole idea of power, like, you know, like how I met this guy in the street in Tulum, and then like he told me about this whole indigenous community that he's part of, and he's like, damn, man, oh my God, like, you know, AMÉMÉ comes on this thing, and he started singing it, and I was like, oh wow, I need to make a track with it. So it's like, there's always kind of a message. So I'm like, I love the fun, but like at the end of the day, like, that's why I always tell people, I'm like, yo, like, I'm not worried about inspiration wise, because like, I think it comes to me, and this is like just how my life is. Like, I'm going through it. Like, I'm feeling, there's a lot of like things that I'm feeling when I'm walking through this, like this world. So messaging will always kind of be somehow part of like what I do, you know?
Yeah. Well, I like how you put it, is that basically it can plant the seed, right? It's not something that you have to force feed to people. It's not something you're trying to lecture people about, but it's just there's layers to every song, every good song, right? And if a song connects with somebody, that just means they can go a little deeper. And I think that's a really good note for anyone who makes anything, is that you can put as many layers and as much meaning as you want, but you have to make sure that the delivery method, a song, a piece of art, whatever it is, it still has to fulfill the basic function, right? Whether it's a dance track or whether it's a painting, like, yeah. It's a good note, man. Again, it sounds simple, but it's hard, very hard to do, I think.
It's kind of what I live by, and obviously there's a lot that I have in mind. I think now I have my team is only growing, like both on like the AMÉMÉ side and both on the Onetribe side. And I'm also like connecting with more like other producers, more upcoming producers that I'm signing, that I'm also like already visualizing like how I can also like what I can bring to the career, and how I can leverage my platform Onetribe to also like give it a little kickback. Because listen, at the end of the day, like it's about the music, man. It's about the music. Let's like the vibe is very, very important, all the stuff. Yeah, but at the end of the day, like there's a lot of talent out there, and like I hope that with Onetribe one day I'll be able to like, make it about the music and allow people to like just come for the music and listen to the lot of different talents that might not be necessarily the biggest names or like the whatever, So yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man. I mean, that's, again, a very, very important gem you just said, is that branding is great, and, branding's fine, but if the product itself isn't good at the baseline, no amount of branding can save it, And I think people kind of miss that focus sometimes.
Sometimes, man, a lot. I mean, especially nowadays, man, like it's the truth, man. Like sometimes the product might not be as good, and then the brand is just so strong that, hey, and this is, again, we live in a new world, man. So
yeah,
like I just want to make sure that I understand that factor, right? And I'm putting the work that I need to put to make sure that like I'm covered in certain sense. But I also want to make sure that I keep some of the essence of what I believe in alive,
Yeah. Amen, man. I mean, as we're kind of wrapping it up here, is there anything you're working on right now, or anything, maybe even something you haven't started yet, but just something you're looking at on the horizon that you're really excited about?
I have so many things.
Yeah, it can be more than one too.
Well, I mean, like I finished a very exciting track with one of my favorite producers, Bonton. He's this kid from the UK, and I'm super excited to like have him on my Onetribe roster and also share a track with him. And the track is coming out in May, so that's gonna be fantastic. I made the remix of La Mezcla by Michel Kleis.
Oh yeah.
Michel Kleis is a legend, and somehow like I met him in Ibiza and he was playing like all my tracks, and my manager like really texted me. So when we bumped into each other in DC-10, he was like, "Yo, man, like you should make a track for me or something, like whatever." And I'm like, "Listen, it could be as easy as that. Like there's one of your tracks that I really love. If you can send me the steps tomorrow, I'm gonna start working on it." And he's like, "Which track?" And I'm like, "Let me just give it a try." Oh, he's never gonna give it to me, but whatever. I was like, "La Mezcla." He's like, "Got it tomorrow." And then tomorrow I literally got it. And then now we have an AMÉMÉ official Michel Kleis coming out in June. So that's like legendary.
Yeah, that's a legendary track.
Yeah. And like, yo, man, like it's a lot of very, very like dope project that I have that involve like bigger, like, pop artists. I don't want to call it names, but like big at a really big level. And I like, we're working on clearance and like whatever like that. And if that goes through, that's definitely going to be like a major like stepping stone again to putting it out there. So
yeah,
hey,
I love it, man. Yeah, no, I love it, man. I'm excited to see what you're going to do next. Is there anything else that's on your mind? Anything else I haven't asked you? Anything else you want to get out there before we wrap it up?
Man, I gotta say, I really love this, man. Anyhow, and I just feel like we were just talking the whole time.
Yeah, that's the idea, man. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah.
No, I had a great time too, man. I've got one final question. It's just the question I ask at the end of each one of these interviews. It's just a quick thing, kind of like the first thing that pops into your head kind of question. Just looking for a moment from your life, a memory from your life. Could be from any time when you were a kid, 2 weeks ago, any time when in that moment, in that memory, music really, really deeply affected you, really hit you hard in that moment. And that's meant to be a super broad question. It could be something as simple as the right song played on a nice sunny day and it was a cool memory, or, you know, a song got you through a hard time, or you saw a concert that you think about sometimes. No wrong answer, kind of just the first thing you think of.
Oh, wow. I have like two different ideas. So it's funny. So I have, okay, man, so such a cheesy song. Okay. Well, so I was, you know, I have this girl that I'm seeing, like, you know, that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And there's this very cheesy song that was playing all the time on radio, in the car, everywhere. And somehow, like, I end, like, it's in my Spotify playlist and I listen to it until today.
What song?
It's such a popular song. What's his name again? Oh man, I think he won a Grammy for it.
Okay, like a recent song.
Yeah, it's like it's a popular song now. People are gonna laugh when they hear this. What's his name? It's the guy that was in a movie. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Oh yeah, Harry Styles.
Oh, Harry Styles. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm guilty of it. Yeah. So yeah, there could be this, and like there's also like songs. There's one very specific song that reminds me of these times where I had to go back to zero. You know, like go back to zero completely, which means financially, you know, like career-wise, like barely almost nothing in my savings account. Didn't know where this was going, and you know, it's a song that like I just connected with, you know, and because I was listening to it all the time during that time, and every time like it comes off, I never like proactively just play it nowadays, but every time it comes back, like it's kind of like, wow, like
yeah, it's you realize that it's kind of been around for those moments, kind of thing. What song is it? Do you remember?
It was a Henry 85 from Dusky. I don't know if you know it.
I know Dusky, but I don't know if I got to look that up when we're done talking here. That's fun too, because those are such different kinds of memories, but I feel like they're sort of connected in a way. Like it's almost what we started off talking about, that, you know, like it makes me think about your brother playing you dance music early on too. And it's, you know, it's these songs that are just sort of in the background. And then later on, you sort of realize that they were shaping how you were perceiving those moments, you know, without even realizing it.
Sure, man.
Yeah. And the fact that, you know, you get to do that now yourself for other people. Like it's kind of a fun little cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I do get a lot of like really nice messages from people, you know. Obviously it touches me and it inspires me to like, I mean, at the end it's all about like who is on the other side of the room and getting it, and you know, like, you know, that you're inspiring. And I mean, I got inspired by so many people. I'm still getting inspired by so many people. So it's you know, it's a constant thing. It's a constant work, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's sort of the fun of it too. And I guess this is maybe some of the chaos in it too, is like, you know, the music that inspired you early on, there was no predicting that music from those people was going to find you and have this effect. And then it's just fun to think about, like, okay, so whatever you're going to do, it's going to affect somebody somewhere else at some time. And we don't know who or how exactly, but like, you know, you're sort of continuing on this tradition, and, you know, it's fun to think about the potential of that, I think.
True that, man.
Well, hey, man, this was great. I really enjoyed talking to you, dude. Thank you for taking the time.
Well, thank you so much for, again, allowing this to happen. And I just wanted to say thank you. And thank you to Leanne for putting it together.
Yeah, shout out Leanne.
Thank you, Willy.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Bye.